We are digging into the aspect of encounters with God, and in the first message we saw four perspectives that we are not watchful, we might miss the encounter with God altogether. If it is entirely up to us to have the encounter, something that Pastor Albert Davis reminded us this morning, as the first party for the encounter is always there and always present and always ready. The third one being that God encounters for everyone, does not depend on our qualifications or our level of spirituality or our position in the church and stuff like that. And finally, it's not a one-time affair. The second part, we basically looked at two facts that God encounters are intensely personal. It doesn't matter whether you're sitting in a mega church or whether you're sitting in a small group. It is one-on-one with the Maker and us. And we also saw that every encounter brings a change in us, and we started looking at those changes. And those changes, is something that I had categorized them into changes in vision, changes in character, and changes in relationships. This is what is described in my book, the Not So With You book. And then we went into the third part. We finished three sermons on this, and this is the fourth one. On the third part of the series, that was last Sunday, we saw how God's encounter changes our vision, right? Enhances our vision from what narrow vision that we might be having into a broader vision that He has for us. And not only that, we also saw how God orchestrates the situations around us so that His vision for us will be fulfilled. Let me just pick up on that and then sort of confirm it with my own experience, right? I've been telling you about my testimony and my conversion story, right? And I talked to you about Leslie taking the risk of marrying me and all that stuff. Now, before that happened, actually, I went to Calcutta with the plan for just staying there for 3 months. Okay, it was meant for only for 3 months. I joined a new company called Remington Rand, and I went in for the new onboarding induction, right, and the initial training. And I was actually supposed to come back to Mysore because that is where the manufacturing plant was. So my stay in Calcutta was supposed to be only for 3 months. I went there, and within a month of my reaching there, the project manager quit. Nothing to do with me. I didn't make him quit. Okay, so don't think that I made him quit. No, he quit. And by that time, somehow I have started working directly with the managing director. I was just, 4, 5, 6 years experienced, and at that point in time, no managing director of a company of, that size would ever think of working with somebody so junior. But he somehow took a liking to me, and he said, okay, look, the project manager has quit. I'm not going to recruit a new project manager. You work with me directly, and we will bring up the project in Mysore. The short of the story is that I went there for 3 months, and I ended up staying there for 1.5 years. And that's when all the damage happened, So, I'm just saying, look, how does God orchestrate these things, right? I didn't know God at that time when I went to Calcutta. I didn't know that there was a God. And then God uses Leslie and God orchestrates my situation in such a way that I am forced to stay back there in Calcutta for 1.5 years instead of 3 months, right? And then obviously brings me in touch with Leslie, and then, my conversion story starts, right? So remember that if God has vision for us, He will orchestrate things around you in such a manner that He will fulfill His vision for us, right? So today we are going to look at the other part. We saw vision, character, and we said that these are 3 things, right? Vision, character, and relationship. So we will look at character today, right? What are the character changes that an encounter with God can bring and should bring to us, right? And we're going to look at one of my favorite characters in the Bible, Peter, right? I don't know how many of you love Peter, but I love him. I really love Peter, right? And thank you, Pastor, for reading that whole part where Jesus encounters and calls his first set of disciples, right? From John chapter 1. And Peter's first encounter with Jesus is as Pastor read out in the morning, is described in John 1:40 to 42. I think one of the young ladies already read it, so let me read it out for you. John 1:40 to 42 reads like this: one of the two who heard from John, that is John the Baptist, speak, followed him, was Andrew, who was Simon Peter's brother. He first found his own brother Simon and said to him, "We have found the Messiah," which is translated in Christ, in the Christ. And then he brought him to Jesus, verse 42. And now when Jesus looked at him, he said, "You are Simon, son of Jonah. You shall be called Cephas," which is translated becomes a stone. Now imagine this. This is Simon's first meeting with Jesus, right? And it is Andrew who brings him to Jesus. But what does Jesus do? Jesus turns to him and straight away identifies him. "Hey, I know you. You are Simon, son of Jonah, and I will make you a rock." Right away. The very first instance where Simon has the encounter with God, right? When encounter with Jesus, he says, "I know you, and I'm going to make you a rock." Right? I'm really amazed at that, and I think Jesus repeats that with Nathaniel, right? I think Pastor read it out this morning, right? Same thing happens with Nathaniel. Nathaniel says, "How do you know me, Lord?" And then Jesus says, "I saw you when you were sitting, under the fig tree," and things like that, right? So Jesus knew who Peter was, and then promises him that he will change his name to Cephas. So that's the first encounter itself. But what we don't know is what happened to Peter after that first encounter. John, none of the gospel writers write about that, what happened to Peter. But we know that if you go through this thing, but we will see that Peter has been with Jesus right from there, going to Galilee and going to Cana and all that places, right? But if you really look at the Bible, we know Peter, right? How would you describe Peter? Some of the Peter in the Gospels, beginning. Give me some adjectives of how would you describe Peter? Sorry? Proud fellow, absolutely, yeah. Very impulsive, yes, right. Short-tempered, yeah. Sorry? Very stubborn, absolutely, right. And he also had that know-it-all attitude, right? I know it, right? So bossy, proud, impulsive, self-reliant, outspoken, blunt, unstable. These are the terms that we can easily use to, describe Peter. And that's one of the reasons why I love him, because, I've been like that multiple times. Now, let's see how the continuous encounters with Jesus changes Peter's character, right? Now, if you look at the Bible and if you look at what theologians say, after the first encounter with Simon and the other disciples were with him at Cana. You remember Cana? What happened at Cana? The first miracle, right? The first miracle of changing water to wine. And he was there. He was there because in John 2:2, it says that they witnessed the miracle. They witnessed the miracle. Yeah, all right. Thank you. So as we see, they were already traveling with him. They were already with him. They were already in his journeys. And then Peter has a very, very specific encounter with Jesus. When is that? That is by the Sea of Galilee, right? And that's where, this is described in Luke chapter 5. So if you can just turn to Luke chapter 5. There's some interesting facts that come out of that, and I would like us to, capture that. Luke chapter 5, okay? Now, if you read Luke chapter 5, actually, when I read Luke chapter 5 first, especially, in the recent times, it reminded me about Leslie's church, right? Because I used to go there, and after every sermon, there is food, right? After every sermon, there is samosa and tea. But then I realized that BBF also, it is the same tradition holds good, isn't it? John is already on his way to collect food, right? So he will probably be coming with this food. Now, of course, if it is my birthday, you get cookies. If it is birthday, like some VIP sitting here, you get nice biryani and kebabs and all that. But there is, class distinctions within the church. It's okay. We will, we will go with all that. But the fact is that every sermon is followed with food. Right? And that's really what is happening in Luke chapter 5. Okay, if you look at the funny side of it, what is happening there? Jesus borrows a boat, he sits on it, he preaches to the multitude. I mean, whatever, he preaches to the people, and then he decides people need food. And so what does he do? He says, hey, let us go catch fish, right? So of course, it's not cooked food as we would get in BBF. It is raw food, but very nice food. It is fish after all. It can't be bad, right? So, so Jesus, after the sermon, he decides to send John and the other disciples to catch fish. And he says in Luke chapter 5:4, what does Luke chapter 5:4 say? Correct, right? Hey, go, sermon is over. Let's catch some fish and bring it so that people could eat, right? Now, let us study Simon's reaction to this command, okay? Can somebody read Luke 5:5? Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Now, what do you think this is? Is this an implicit obedience? Do you think it is an implicit obedience? No, it is. It's not an implicit obedience. Why does it happen? Now remember, who is Peter? Who is Peter? What is his profession? He is a fisherman, right? And who is Jesus by profession? A carpenter, right? Now, a carpenter is telling a fisherman how to catch fish. Won't you be offended if somebody who has no relation with your profession comes and start teaching you how to do your job, right? So Peter is thinking, man, I have spent my entire lifetime catching fish. I know that the fish comes out in the night and not in the day, and I have already toiled in the night and there was no fish. Right? Now, you as a carpenter is telling me that yes, go and launch out into the sea and cast out the net and fish will come. So what he does is, he actually does what we typically known as because you say so obedience, okay? Because you say so obedience. So he basically tells Jesus, I know that, it's not going to happen, right? I know that I know what is fishing. I know you are good at preaching and maybe you're good at carpentry, but I am good at fishing. I know about fishing, but though I am offended at your command, because you say so, I will do it. Because you say so, I will do it. Does it sound familiar, that term? When the Lord asks us to do something, are there times when we turn back and say, Lord, I know better. I know my life better. But because you say so, I will probably try it out, right? Yeah? It's like doing a concession to the Lord, right? Because you say so, we will do it. Of course, the good thing about Peter's story is that he finally obeys. And then we know that the results are magical, right? And what the results do is it makes Peter realize his mistake, right? What was his mistake? He was self-reliant on his profession. He was self-reliant on the knowledge that he had about his profession. He was actually, on his own talent of fishing, right? And that is where Peter's first recorded confession comes, right? 5:8, Luke 5:8. Can one of you read it, please? Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Right? Depart from me, for I am a sinful man. Peter's character shifts from being a self-reliant person to a God-reliant person, and this is when it happens, and that is when Peter confirms that, look, Lord, I am a sinful man. I'm not worthy to be called by you. That is exactly the point where Jesus turns around and says, look, do not be afraid. Do not be afraid. From now on, you will catch men. Luke 5:10. It's at the lowest point when Peter finally confirms, when Peter finally gives up. Jesus did not give him this command when Peter was holding on to his talent and saying that I have talent, I can do things. When did Jesus give him this commission? When Peter completely surrendered to him, said that, Lord, I am a sinner. Go away from me. I can't even be associated with you. Right? That is when Jesus gives him this call. Look, don't be afraid. I will make you fishers of men. Now on, you will catch men. And then we know the story. Along with James and John, Peter leaves his profession and follows Jesus full time. So that is when actually Peter becomes a full-time disciple of Jesus. Obviously, till that time, he was shifting between fishing and traveling with Jesus and things like that. And this is when he shifts from because you say so obedience to full obedience. Right? The shift of because you say so obedience to full obedience. Again, Peter's confession is so very close to my heart. Going back to my own testimony, right? Pardon me for bringing you my own story, but I think I hope you will learn something from me, because I believe every sermon is for me, as much as it is for the others, right? Let me give you another glimpse of my testimony. I already told you that my conversion happened because God confronted me or encountered me through the Bible over 8 years. And I told you that I finally surrendered to him because God revealed his nature of love that he had for me. He told me I am precious in his eyes. He told me that he has loved me with an everlasting love. And he told me that he sent his own son to die for me on the cross. That is how much he loved me. But before he revealed his love to me, he actually revealed my own sinful nature to me through the Bible. Now, you know that when you read the Bible, all the biblical characters are not good, right? How many bad characters do you see in the Bible? Plenty, right? Absolutely, plenty. There are plenty of bad characters in the Bible. And what God was revealing to me was through every bad character, God was revealing my character flaws as per his standards, not as per my standard, but as per his standard. So when I see a liar in the Bible, I say, hey, that's me. When I see a cheat in the Bible, I say, hey, that's me. When I see someone lusting after a woman, I see, hey, that's me. Right? When I see somebody greedy for wealth in the Bible, God tells me it is you, like Nathan did to David. Right? So what the Bible did was to reveal my character flaws to myself. But the fact that I started reading the Bible to score brownie points with the preachers didn't matter. Once I started reading the Bible, God revealed my character flaws to me. My character flaws to me. And he convicted me of the grave nature of sin that I was living in. Before he showed me his love and then said that, look, it doesn't matter. I paid for your sins, past, present, and future, and there's no condemnation for you in me. That's when I surrendered, right? So that is what can happen when you have an encounter with God. It changes your reference from worldly standards, right? By worldly standards, what I was doing was all right. But by biblical standards, it was not. It was not. By biblical standards, it was not. And so when I compared my faults with God's standards, that is when I realized that I was a completely lost person. And that is what, after 8 years of struggle, I decided to tell Jesus, just like Peter did, Lord, I'm a sinner. I cannot go on like this. I need you. I need you. That's what an encounter with God will do to your character. It will reveal your chinks in the armor. It will reveal your rough edges until we come to the realization that we are sinful people and we need him to become better. We need him. Without him, we cannot become better. Good morning, as we wrap up the fourth part of this series. Shall we close our eyes? Shall we close our eyes and look for a moment? Examine ourselves. Examine ourselves. What are the character flaws that we still have that needs to change? When is the last time that we had an encounter with God and changed a character attribute of ours? As I already indicated, the first sermon itself, one of the good reasons for us to come to church would be to seek an encounter with Him. So let's do that. Let's seek an encounter with Him today and every Sunday. And let that be our purpose of coming to church, not this Sunday, but every Sunday, to have an encounter with God and make changes in our vision, character, and relationships. Thank you.